If you're like me, your to-do list is starting to look like one of those text messages that starts out with, "Hey, real quick," and then 4 screens later ends up with, "But I'm not mad." And somewhere between all of the literal and metaphorical tabs that I have open and all of the goals that I've been chasing, I started to realize that I was becoming overwhelmed and something had to give. I've recently come to a point where I've consistently just had too much on my plate, and I realized that I needed to start outsourcing work, not really to grow or just to succeed, but really just to survive. Now, as an independent creative, I love what I do, but that also means I wear every hat: writer, producer, director, editor, marketer, brand strategist, and quite often IT. And while I've gotten pretty good at juggling a multitude of things, the truth is I was and am still finding myself frequently burning out. But then I was recommended this book from a friend called Buyback Your Time by Dan Martell. And what I really enjoyed about this book is it not only gave words to what I was actually feeling and dealing with, but it actually gave me a legitimate framework to attempt to fix it. Okay, so for me, the first takeaway from this book is where, in the book, Martell talks about time like it's money, but more important. The gist of what he tries to drive home is if you can pay someone $20 to do a task that eats up hours of your day, why are you then instead doing it, instead of actually focusing on things that bring you joy, move the needle, or actually get you closer to your ultimate or large end goals? And that point stuck with me because I was doing everything just because it was how I knew to do things. For me, I'm a creative. I live in Los Angeles, but I started in Omaha, Nebraska a decade or so back when there weren't a lot of creatives. And if I needed to collaborate with someone or if I needed someone to help do a job, there weren't a lot of people to do it. So if I wanted to get better, I had to wear many hats. But the world has kind of changed now and the internet has brought things a lot closer. So now we have a lot more resources and people to depend on. So a lot of us don't need to wear as many hats as we like to. And then the second key takeaway for me, and probably the most important part of this book, is going to be the buyback loop. And the buyback loop basically has 3 steps: audit, transfer, fill. And the first step is to audit your time. And you start by tracking how you spend your time for a few days. Work tasks, personal errands, mindless scrolling, everything. And the goal in doing this isn't judgment, it's clarity. You're looking for patterns. Some of those being what drains you, what is repetitive, and what doesn't move the needle. Now, the second step is transferring low value tasks. Now, if you're like me, you want to know how and to whom. Once you know what's eating your time, you start to offload it. That could mean hiring a freelancer for design or for editing, using automation tools for repetitive tasks, or even asking a virtual assistant to handle emails and scheduling. The key is to stop doing tasks that cost less than what your time is worth. Now, I won't go through it in this video because I probably won't do it justice, but there is a point in this book where they talk about how to put a quantitative value on your time. And then the third and final step is to fill that newly available time with high value work. The goal is to use that freed up time to focus on things that only you can do. That can be creative work, strategic planning, pitching, writing, directing, or something that most of us don't want to admit, it could be just rest. I keep learning the hard way that recharging our brain is often the most valuable thing we can do for ourselves in the long term. But the most important thing to remember is this is not about outsourcing your whole life, it is about designing it. So I ran my own little personal experiment. I began hiring people for one-off gigs. Sometimes it was just hiring people to help get client projects over the finish line. A lot of times it was for my own projects, whether it was going to be graphic design work or animation or things that I know I'm not normally good at, but my multi-potential brain would want to then research, learn, and master, but would be a poor use of my time. It allowed me to be more focused on the tasks that I still had on my plate. It allowed me to be more present in places that I was, instead of then fixating on the stuff that I still had to do that I hadn't yet taken care of. And then when I did lock in on my work, it allowed me to be more creative as a byproduct. But along with that, here are a few other ways that I found that I could buy back my time as a creative. First being batch creating or batch editing. Now, if you're not a content creator and this sounds like a term that's unfamiliar to you, think about it like meal prepping, but for content. 1 outfit, 5 videos, 0 stress, hopefully. The second being using tools like Notion and ChatGPT as a second brain. Personally, this has been the biggest game changer for me. If you guys are interested in hearing more about my take on that, let me know in the comments and I can make a video about it. Comment on that one, guys. tasks. The next one being templatizing your workflow. That can range from anything from proposals to posting schedules. Then, as we already discussed, hiring freelancers for one-off projects. There's going to be a lot of sites like that. The most commonly known or used one is probably going to be something like Fiverr, but there are going to be plenty other options out there for you if you need it. And then one more that we touched on a little bit before is going to be automating repetitive tasks. Admittedly, this is something that I'm still working on perfecting myself. But there are apps like Zapier, which connects to your apps to handle routine tasks automatically, other AI tools, and then smart templates as well. But all in all, the biggest thing you should take away from this video is if you are neurodivergent, a multi-potentialite, or if you just have too much on your plate, you're probably not lazy, no matter how much you want to tell yourself that. You might just be overloaded. I know this has been a perpetual state for me as of late. And for people like us, buying back our time isn't so much a luxury as it is a necessity, and I might go as far as to say it's survival. So if you've ever felt like you're falling behind or failing because you can't do it all, maybe the answer isn't working harder. Maybe it's buying back your time. So if you get a chance, pick up this book, check it out, and let me know in the comments what the biggest thief of your time is and what you're doing to actually fix that. And I will see you all in the next video.